There is a mysterious school of Okinawan karate that was once whispered to be taught only within the gates. Its name is Uechi-Ryu. The practitioners train their fingertips until they become as hard as steel. Their techniques combine the ferocious strength of a tiger with the supple grace of a crane. Because of this balance, the style was once known as Pangainoon, half hard, half soft. Karate that spread to mainland Japan developed a somewhat different atmosphere from the karate that remained rooted in Okinawa. Yet even among Okinawan styles, Uechi-Ryu is known for its particularly distinctive technical system. It is regarded as one of the three major Okinawan karate schools, alongside Goju-Ryu and Shorin-Ryu. And the man who brought this art back from China to Okinawa was a single individual. The man's name was Kanbun Uechi. Why did he cross the sea, even at the risk of breaking the law? Why did he abandon the martial art he had once mastered and remain silent for so long? Behind these questions lies the turbulent history of modern Japan and Okinawa, and the unyielding pride of a martial artist who refused to compromise. Behind these questions lies the turbulent history of modern Japan and Okinawa, and the unyielding pride of a martial artist who refused to compromise. In 1877, Kanbun Uechi was born in Okinawa Prefecture. It was only 2 years after the Ryukyu kingdom had been dismantled and turned into Okinawa Prefecture through the political process known as the Ryukyu Disposition. When he reached adulthood, he found himself facing the harsh currents of a turbulent era. In 1898, the Meiji government moved to enforce the conscription system in Okinawa, something the islands had previously been exempt from. In Okinawa Prefecture, conscription was implemented on January 1, 1898, 25 years later than in mainland Japan. This policy was part of the Meiji government's broader programs of military strengthening and cultural assimilation. Military examinations were conducted for men aged 20, and many young men were drafted into the army. In April 1898, the newspaper Ryukyu Shimpo published guidelines titled Advice for Men of Conscription Age, warning that avoiding the examination without permission would result in punishment. It is said that many Okinawans suffered discrimination from soldiers from other prefectures because they did not speak standard Japanese. Some Okinawans tried to overcome this discrimination and prove themselves as true citizens of Japan by volunteering eagerly for the front lines in conflicts such as the Russo-Japanese War. For many people in Okinawa at the time, their homeland had been an independent kingdom only a few years earlier. Yet it was rapidly being absorbed into Japan, and young men were increasingly being sent off to serve as soldiers of the Japanese state. It was an era marked by such dramatic change. In 1897, the year before conscription was introduced, the 20-year-old Uechi made a life-altering decision. He chose to evade military service. At that time, there were still Okinawans who resisted Japanese rule and fled to Qing-China. These people were known as Daishin-nin, those who crossed over to the Qing. Uechi joined them. Under the cover of darkness, he pushed a small boat into the night sea and set out on a clandestine journey, fully aware that it might cost him his life. It is said that at the Kojo Dojo in Fuzhou, Fujian, where Uechi first enrolled, there were other Okinawans training there as well. Before long, for reasons unknown, Uechi left the Kojo Dojo. Through circumstances that remain unclear, he eventually came under the instruction of a local martial artist named Shu Zihei, from whom he learned the martial art that would later become the foundation of Uechi-Ryu. Under Shusab's guidance, Uechi was initially made to practice nothing but Sanchin for 3 full years. Only after his dedication was recognized and he was formally accepted as a disciple did he begin to learn the core kata that form the basis of modern Uechi-Ryu, Sanchin, Seisan, and Sansei-Ryu, along with various training methods and medicinal formulas. In 1904, Kanbun Uechi's talent finally blossomed, and his master entrusted him with the complete transmission of the art. 2 years later, on the recommendation of his teacher, Jo Zihei, he became independent. He then opened his own martial arts school in Fuzhou. At the time, it was extremely unusual for a foreigner to teach martial arts in China. In southern Fujian, as many Chinese martial artists did in that era, he also made a living selling medicine on the streets, demonstrating his martial skills while conducting his trade. But at the height of his success, tragedy struck. One of his students became involved in a dispute and, using techniques of Pangainoon, ended up taking another person's life. My teachings have become a tool for killing. Overwhelmed with deep remorse, Kanbun closed his dojo. Bringing his 13-year life in China to an end, he returned in 1910 to his homeland of Okinawa, firmly vowing that he would never teach karate again. Because he had evaded military service, it is said that when he first returned to Okinawa, he behaved as if he were Chinese. In May of that same year, Kanbun married in his hometown of Izumi. The following year, in 1911, his first son, Kane, who would later complete and systematize Uechi-Ryu, was born. In 1922, his second son, Kansei, was born. During this time in Izumi, Kanbun mainly worked as a farmer. However, in the 1920s, Okinawa was suffering from a devastating economic crisis known as Sotetsu Jigoku, Sago palm hell. With little food available, people were forced to process and eat the poisonous sago palm just to survive. Days of sheer desperation. Many Okinawans had no choice but to leave their homeland in search of work on the Japanese mainland. They gathered in industrial areas such as Tsurumi in Yokohama, Osaka, and Amagasaki in Hyogo, forming tight-knit communities. Even today, descendants of those migrants still maintain communities in these regions. This is Tsurumi in Yokohama. Many masters of karate also moved to industrial areas like this during that era. In the neighboring town of Kawasaki, a master of Goju-Ryu, Izumikawa Kanki, also established his dojo. There is also a dojo in this town called Itozu Kai, which carries on the lineage of Itozu Anko, who is sometimes described as the first person to initiate the modernization of karate. The school was inherited through Mabuni Kenwa, one of Itosu's senior disciples and the founder of Shito-Ryu. Okinawan restaurants and specialty shops line the streets, and many houses bear nameplates that appear to belong to people originally from Okinawa. It is also likely that the founder of Shito-Ryu, Mabuni Kenwa, moved to Osaka, another major industrial area in western Japan, against the background of these same social circumstances. It is fascinating that these industrial areas became the fertile ground where karate took root in mainland Japan. The same can be said for Uechi-Ryu as well. In 1924, at the age of 47, Uechi also left for Wakayama to support his family. At the time, Wakayama had a community of Okinawan migrants often referred to as an Okinawa village. A young man named Ryukyu Tomoyoshi noticed Uechi's extraordinary physical ability. Tomoyoshi repeatedly pleaded, "Please teach me karate." Uechi continued to remain silent, but in the end Tomoyoshi succeeded in persuading him. In 1926, at the age of 49, Uechi finally broke his long silence and established the Pangainoon-style Karate Jutsu Research Institute. Here we should touch on why Uechi-Ryu stands apart from other styles of karate, its distinctive kind of strength. One of the defining features of Uechi-Ryu is its unique methods of physical conditioning, rarely seen in many mainland Japanese karate schools. While most karate styles focus on forming and striking with the fist, Uechi-Ryu frequently employs techniques such as the Nukite, spear hand strike using the fingertips, and the Boshiken, thumb knuckle strike. Even more striking is the Sokusengeri, or toe kick. By extending the toes and striking with pinpoint precision at an opponent's vital points, This technique exemplifies the intense body conditioning characteristic of the style. It reflects a core idea found in Chinese martial arts, training the body until the hands and feet themselves become weapons, like spears or swords. Defensively as well, the philosophy differs. Rather than primarily evading attacks, practitioners emphasize receiving them with a conditioned body. A famous example is kotekitai, a conditioning practice in which practitioners strip to the waist and strike each other's forearms and bodies to toughen them. This approach perfectly embodies the concept of half-hard, half-soft, Pangainoon, a system that unites the hardness of steel with the flexibility of willow. It is in many ways a martial form built for the realities of close combat. After the normalization of diplomatic relations between Japan and China on September 29, 1972, several research teams from Japan were sent to investigate the origins of karate in China. However, they were unable to identify a specific martial art that could be definitively recognized as karate's direct source. As books on Chinese martial arts became widely available in modern times, some researchers began to point out that the techniques described in those traditions show little resemblance to the martial systems transmitted by early karate masters. In recent years, a growing number of scholars have even begun to question the historical transmission lines themselves. However, it is also a widely acknowledged historical fact that during the Cultural Revolution in China from 1966 to 1976, many traditional martial arts were lost or severely disrupted. For that reason, it may be premature to completely dismiss Chinese influence on karate simply because modern Chinese martial arts do not closely resemble it today. In 1940, through the enthusiasm of its students, the style was officially named Uechi-Ryu. In 1942, Uechi-Kane, who had moved to Wakayama in 1927 and completed his karate training under his father Uechi Kanbun, returned to Okinawa. He opened a dojo in Miyazato, Nago City, marking the arrival of Uechi-Ryu karate in Okinawa. In 1945, the Pacific War ended. Okinawa was the only place within Japan where a full-scale ground battle took place during the war. As a result, 1 in 4 residents lost their lives, and the region suffered devastating destruction. After the war, Okinawa became the only prefecture placed under U.S. occupation. The U.S. dollar circulated as currency, traffic switched to right-hand driving like in the United States, and passports were required to travel between Okinawa and mainland Japan. This situation continued until May 15, 1972, when Okinawa was returned to Japanese administration. Compared with mainland Japan, Okinawa's recovery was significantly delayed. While mainland Japan experienced rapid economic recovery fueled by special procurement during the Korean War, which also helped complete major infrastructure development, Okinawa did not benefit from this economic boom. Even today, Okinawa's unemployment rate remains among the highest in Japan, and one factor often cited is the presence of U.S. military bases. From the perspective of many people on the mainland, the belief persists that Okinawa manages to sustain its economy thanks to these bases. However, about 70% of all U.S. exclusive-use military facilities in Japan are concentrated on Okinawa's main island, occupying roughly 15–20% of the island's total land area. Major installations, such as Kadena Air Base and Futenma Air Station, are concentrated in the central and southern parts of the island, where issues including noise pollution, accidents, and environmental contamination have been reported. Furthermore, large base areas run across the middle of the island, effectively dividing Okinawa in two. Some experts argue that this has delayed development in the northern region, and has consequently hindered the overall industrial growth of Okinawa. The following year, in 1946, Uechi Kanbun entrusted the Wakayama Dojo to Tomoyoshi Ryukyu and returned to Okinawa together with Shinjo Seiryo, his son Shinjo Seiyu, and Toyama Seiko, among others. He later moved to Ie Island. Uechi-kane reopened the dojo that had been closed during the war. In 1948, Uechi Kanbun passed away. After Kanbun's death, his techniques were further refined by his son Kane and others, and today the style has spread across the world. Particularly in France and the United States, its overwhelming practicality has earned strong support, gaining popularity as a true martial art, distinct from competition-focused karate. In Uechi-Ryu karate, the goal is not simply to perform kata beautifully. What truly matters is whether the techniques contained within the kata can actually be used when the moment comes. Daily training is carried out to elevate the power of techniques and the strength of the body to a level suitable for real combat. At its core lies the belief that karate practiced only in form, without practical effectiveness, has no real meaning. This philosophy is articulated by Shinjo Kiyohide, the head of the Uechi-Ryu Karate-do Kenyukai. Raised in a family that has practiced Uechi-Ryu for 3 generations since his grandfather's time, Shinjo himself is a karateka who achieved results in both kumite and kata competitions. Today, he is considered one of the instructors who symbolize modern Uechi-Ryu. When Shinjo began practicing karate in the 1960s, Okinawa was under the strong influence of the Vietnam War. Large numbers of American soldiers were stationed there, and the atmosphere of society was rough and tense. During that time, Uechi-Ryu promoted itself as practical combat karate and became known for its intense free sparring training. While some dojos refused to accept foreign students, Uechi-Ryu accepted American servicemen as trainees. At that time, practitioners sometimes tested their abilities outside the dojo as well. They would go to bars where American soldiers gathered and real fights could break out. It was an era reminiscent of Motobu Choki's famous kake dameshi, testing one's skills in actual street fights. Shinjo believes that this tradition of emphasizing real combat is one reason Uechi-Ryu spread so widely. Practitioners constantly faced physically larger American soldiers and continued refining techniques that would actually work in real situations. Unlike schools that avoided sparring, there was a strong shared belief within the dojo that techniques which could not be used in reality were meaningless. Around the same time on mainland Japan, Mazoyama's Kyokushin karate was gaining enormous popularity. Yet Uechi-Ryu practitioners also took great pride in their own practical effectiveness. In Kyokushin's full-contact matches, punches to the face are not permitted, whereas in Uechi-Ryu competition, attacks aimed at the face are recognized as valid techniques, even though they are controlled and not actually struck with full force. Because of this difference, some within Uechi-Ryu criticize rules that exclude facial attacks, arguing that they dull one's sense for real combat. Indeed, in earlier times before training methods were developed to adapt fighters to other combat sports, whenever Kyokushin karate practitioners challenged kickboxing or MMA, the most noticeable difficulty often appeared to be dealing with attacks to the face. For these reasons, Uechi-Ryu is often described not merely as a traditional martial art, but as one of the Okinawan Big Three karate styles that has especially pursued the idea of karate that truly works in real combat. A young man who fled military conscription crossed the sea to a foreign land where he forged himself through martial training. Though he sometimes grew disillusioned with the martial path, he eventually returned to the homeland of karate, Okinawa, and created a major school that would become one of the three great karate styles. Within the karate that Uechi Kanbun left behind, the spirit of Okinawa, hardened by an unforgiving era, still lives on today.
Japan B is a channel that randomly shares information about lesser-known aspects of Japanese culture, spanning across various genres.